integrated, transparent, cross-system service planning process for children's services, including foster care, preventive services, and aftercare, with the active participation of service providers, families, youth, and advocates, and a raising of the age of criminal responsibility to 18. Now, some of the programs that we mentioned are locally funded or under local control, and there are others that require state and federal investment. There are plenty of opportunities for all levels of government to play a role. But what it takes first is a more universal commitment to a continuum of children youth services and supports that start early, are high quality, affordable, and produce measurable results. It takes recognition that our next generation is always a priority regardless of the state of the economy or the political season. It's true there are some very good things happening. In addition to the President's new early learning initiatives, Governor Cuomo proposed new universal pre-K funding, very exciting, and included the Summer Youth Employment Program in his budget. In the Assembly, with leadership from Assemblywoman Amy Pollin and with the support of our Westchester Assembly members, there is an effort to secure funding for Quality Stars New York. So we're very hopeful, but we're also realistic, and we know that the voices in support of the next generation must be better informed, more insistent, and frankly more diverse to secure what the next generation needs. Years ago, I ran a Head Start program for children who were homeless here in Westchester. And one day, we had an article about the program in the paper. And it talked about all the hardships that the children had endured. In addition to homelessness, they had experienced hunger, separation from loved ones, chronic sickness, exposure to violence, and maternal depression. A laundry list of every possibly horrible thing that a child could experience. And that same day on the front page, there was an article about a dog that went into a neighbor's yard one too many times and was actually wounded by that neighbor. This happened in Scarsdale. The dog was hurt. I should tell you the dog was okay. But 2 days later, there was a follow-up in the paper about the dog. And the dog's owner, described an overwhelming response from people across the country. Letters, cards, food, checks, cash. I received one letter from a reader who chided me for using the word kid instead of child, which was appropriate because I was being a little sloppy, I guess, in my remarks. But I tell this story not because I think we are an uncaring nation or indifferent to the suffering of children. In fact, there are so many examples of American generosity. But there seems to be something that keeps us from robustly attacking the challenges that begin for some kids almost from birth and rob them of what they could become. Even now, when there's so much research and data that makes it so very clear that we could do so much better. Now, whether it is a cultural reluctance to intrude into the family circle or an expression of the high value our society places on self-reliance, I don't know. But I do know that our next generation pays a high price for our failure to invest properly in their future. So that's why we're here today, to say that there are no issues that are more pressing than those of the next generation, that we know so much more than ever before about effective programs and strategies, that we look to our elected officials at every level of government to make the next generation a priority, and that we need everybody in the audience today and everybody that you know to help us make this case. Thank you all for coming again today, and now we're going to actually hear from the next generation.
Okay, so now we're going to move into our town hall portion of the morning. And very shortly, you'll be hearing some questions from young people from Westchester County for our elected officials. Before we do that, though, I just want to sort of complete introductions of people who have come in and then recognize our elected So I know that Simra Brandon, oh, there you are. From Senator Andre Stewart Cousins' office is here with us. And Virginia Noriega came from Congresswoman Nita Lowey's office. So, okay, and I'm sure we actually had a very good response from both our county and state officials, and so there probably will be others who will join us once we begin the program. But I certainly want to recognize and again thanks and say how much we appreciate those of you who are up front with us this morning for joining us. So I want to start by recognizing our Assembly and the Honorable David Buchwald. The Honorable Sandy Gallup. We have the Honorable Steve Otis. And the Honorable Sherry Meyer. We also have a very good showing from our local Westchester County legislators, and I will begin with Legislator Catherine Borgia, Legislator Judy Myers, Legislator Michael Smith, and finally, as Legislative Capitalist said, the other Mike, Legislative Mike Capitalist. Okay, so our plan for the town hall is that we will have the young person come up, introduce themselves, the community they're from, their school, their grade, and they will present a question. We are certainly want to hear from all of our elected officials, so for each question we'll probably allow 2 to 3 to sort of give a response, and I ask that you limit your response to about 2 minutes so that we can make sure we get through all the questions for the young people and that all officials do have an opportunity to speak and present. So I'm going to start with Mackenzie Soto. She's going to come up. And really want to thank our young people today because for all of them here, this is a day off. So they have gotten up early, they've gotten up early. So I think that it really speaks to the commitment of our young people, and they are a sampling of the great young people, the next generation we have here in Westchester. So Mackenzie, I'll let you introduce yourself. Thank you.
I'm Mackenzie, and I go to Pearls, and I'm in 4th grade. Do you have a good understanding of what a quality daycare program is versus a lower quality program? And have any of you ever visited these programs?
Have any takers for the, okay. Thank you, Assemblywoman Gallon.
I'll start. Mackenzie, that was a wonderful, it's on, okay. That was a wonderful, wonderful question. And we do get invited to daycare centers, childcare centers, early education centers, pre-K programs, you know, on a basis here and there and so on, and I think we can see the difference. I actually, before I became I was a Westchester County legislator before I was an assembly person, but I used to go into daycare centers and test for hearing for children as a volunteer. And I got into so many of them, and I think I learned back a long time ago, and that was probably in the 70s, the differences, and I'm sure there are more differences now, but I certainly knew about family care, you know, and even within all of the subsets of the education programs that we have for young people, there are a lot of variations on the theme. And as a former educator, you know, I know that there are a lot of things that, skill building, that maybe isn't necessarily learning ABC, but there's a lot of skill building that goes into this. How to deal with your friends, how to deal with a conflict. There was just something in the paper the other day that there was a fight in the city. Actually, when I went to bed last night, it was terrible because there seemed to be, the news was just awful. But one of them was about somebody in the Bronx, the kids were fighting over candy. So it seems to me that early education is about learning how not to fight over candy and to get on with things that are really important. So I'm always learning, and I think we all need to continue to learn. So, you know, invite me anytime. But that was a really good question. I think I know, but maybe I don't know everything. So, thank you.
Anyone else with a question?
Thank you, Mackenzie. In each of our districts, we have wonderful daycare centers. The Mount Kisco Daycare Center is just outside my district, but in our region. And in fact, my two daughters have worked there through the years and have literally brought home to me, and I visited and understand that quality daycare is very, very important. And it's an investment, and one that each year we make as county legislators, and we'll continue to do our best to continue to make an investment in it. And also at our public hearings each year, we hear from wonderful representatives and parents and kids and young people, children who avail themselves and to take advantage of and learn at these centers. We do recognize that a quality program is much better than putting a child in front of a television set and leaving them there for 8 hours and then having a parent come back. So we do recognize that. The struggle is not to show us quality, the struggle is for us to come up with the dollars to be able to make that proper investment.
Senator Meyer, did you want to answer?
I'm not sure mine is working, but, okay. My children went to the White Plains Family Daycare, which was a terrific Head Start program as they were growing up. And I think one of the things, the lessons of quality childcare is you have to pay the staff enough and motivate the staff enough that you can retain quality staff, and that's one of the challenges for us. And the other thing I think is for the small setting, or group family daycare or family daycare is a great model, and we have to give them the resources, again, to retain quality staff and to have enough money to make it a viable small business so they can continue and provide quality, because quality is key. I think we're all committed to it. The question is quality plus accessibility. Those are the challenges we're trying to do.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call up Madison Soto, and I will just tell our officials that we have two mics here. One is the wire, one is the wireless, but only one can be on at a time, otherwise we will get feedback. So for those at the far end of the table, when you use that one, let's just turn off this one closer to me. Thank you.
After my grandmother had my dad, she stayed home. Many of you on the panel probably had mothers that stayed at home. Now my mom runs a daycare full-time, and most of my friends' mothers work too. With that in mind, do you feel like legislators are doing enough to make sure children are receiving a good foundation?
I'll start with that. I'm here. Madison, good question, thank you. In fact, two good questions. I'm glad you don't come to the legislature, because then we'd really be stumped. To tell you the truth, we could use somebody like you at the legislature. So, excellent question, and it's, you know, it's as some of the earlier speakers talked about, the whole process, it's a continuum. You know, it's foundational. One of the analogies before I was on the legislature, I was on the Valhalla School Board and for 6 years. And one of the things that you find